everyone. I thought I would walk you through today a project that I'm going to make using the Ali Edwards March 2018 digital kit. And this is my inspiration here. This is a layout in the spring edition of the Magnolia Journal magazine, which I love. And I loved this layout. I love the full page photo with text overlay and then sort of this area with the copy over here. I also loved this little border along the bottom, and I just thought this would translate really well to a 6x8 layout for my scrapbook. So I thought I would show you kind of start to finish how I went about it. So I'm going to start in Photoshop. I'm going to go to File and New, and I'm going to create a 6x8 layout. Let me drag this screen over here just so we can kind of look at both of them at the same time. And I like to, when I'm working on things like this, use the Command and the apostrophe key on my keyboard, and it gives me a grid, which really helps to line things up. Okay, so I'm going to start with my journaling first, and I'm using a combination of journaling and a really great quote that I found. And so to start with, I'm going to hit T on my keyboard to create a text layer, and I'm going to do it sort of in this upper third part of the page, and I can move all of this around. I'm just trying to get it on the page first. And so this is the quote that I found, and I've already typed it out just to save a little time. I'm going to use Control C on my keyboard there to copy it, and then come back and double click in my text layer and do Control V, and that will go ahead and get that pasted in. And then I'm going to go ahead and click over here in my layers panel area to apply that text. I'm going to make another text box now, a little bit lower down, but the same basic width, just 4 inches I think, leaves a nice margin around the edges. And I've got my text typed out here once again to make it a little bit easier. Okay, great. So here is my text now in my layout, and if I come back to the inspiration, one of the things that I really liked about this page with all of the text on it was the different styles of text, the different types that they used. And you can see here, I think you can see, it's kind of a dark green. I'm sure they pulled the color from the photo, but I love that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use green text in my layout. And to do that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drag the journal card where I'm going to get my color from. I'm going to go ahead and drag that into my layout, because I'm going to use this also as a border along the bottom. So if I use the eyedropper tool, which is I on the keyboard, and I go ahead and click on that green, it will then put this green as my default foreground, or my foreground color. And then if I come over and I double click on my text, and then I use the text tool here, I can click on color and then click on my foreground color, and that will change the color of the text in that text box. And I really like that spring green. It's just such a happy green. But I think what I would like to do is go ahead and leave the author's name of the quote. I'd like to go ahead and leave that in black, so I'm going to go ahead and move that back. But yeah, I think that's really, really fun. I love the repetition between the green and the text and the green along the border at the bottom. Okay, and for the text, you can see my quote is in Playfair Display SC, and it's 22 points. The author's name is the same font. Sorry, it's in 14 point. And then the body copy for my journaling is in Remington Noiseless. And I think what I might do here is just kind of expand the spacing between the lines a little bit. I might make that 14. Let's see what 16 looks like. Yeah, I think maybe 14 here. just gives that text a little room to breathe. So I think that looks really nice. I'm just going to go ahead and click off there to apply that. What I might do is move this text down a little bit, just a tiny bit, because what I would like to do is add a border similar to the magazine layout above and below my quote. And to do that, I'm going to come over here to the drawing tools, and if I click on that little tiny arrow, I can select the line tool. I'm going to come over here, and using this same sort of 1-inch margin, I'm going to click on my page and then drag to the right. And you can see here it's created, since my foreground color is that green color, it's gone ahead and use that green as the fill color, but I want to make it a little bit thicker, so I'm going to select 5 here and hit enter. And now when I select, or just click off of it in my layers panel, you can see it's a nice, decent sized thick line above my quote. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that layer again. I'm going to use Control J on my keyboard to create a duplicate copy, and then V will allow me to move that, and if I just hover over till I get that solid black arrow, then I can move it down here below my journaling, or this quote piece. So next I'm going to just come over here, and I've still got the V, the layer selection from my keyboard, so I can just click on that area with my journaling, and I'm just going to drag it here. A lot of times Photoshop will help you kind of align it between two things. You can see there on the screen in bright pink, so it's kind of centered between those two lines, and I think that looks just fine. And then if I might actually pull this this journaling block up. So to move to adjust my text, I need to go back and hit T on my keyboard and then pull that up a bit. I might go ahead and make that a little bit wider, just fill that out a bit. Yeah, that looks great. And then it's got a nice little common margin here between the different areas of the journaling, and it's got some nice white space. So on the magazine layout, they've got this great little rooster icon. It's an article about raising chickens, which, just FYI, something I totally want to do someday. But instead of using a digital embellishment here, I think what I'm going to do is actually add a physical embellishment, just because anytime I do like a kind of hybrid layout, I just always like some type of physical thing there too. So just as I'm looking here at the overall composition of my layout, I like it, I'm happy with it. I think it all needs to move down a bit though. So I'm going to select all of the layers by holding down the Shift key. I'm selecting all of them but this bottom border. And then using the V key on my keyboard, I'm just going to drag everything down a bit, just trying to keep it centered there in the middle. And that just gives it a little more space along the top. Yeah, I like that better. Yeah, and then I'll put a little digital or a little embellishment there, and that'll be great. All right, so the next part of the process will be getting a photo and then adding some text overlay on top of it. And to do that, I'm going to switch over to Lightroom, and this is the photo that I'm planning to use. And I've already gone ahead and done my post-processing, but what I need to do is crop it so that it will be a 6:8 aspect ratio. And if I click here next to the cropping, in this cropping panel, if I click on original, I can come down here to 4:3, which is the same aspect ratio as 4:8. And I'm just going to move it around here. You just kind of get it here in the rule of thirds, and then hit enter on my keyboard and apply that. Next, I'm going to right click and I'm going to say edit in Photoshop, and then it will pull this photo into Photoshop where I can apply a text overlay. So I'm just going to move it here. I'm just going to kind of line these up a little bit side by side, get an idea how they might look as a scrapbook layout. Let's get these windows lined up a little bit. See how that looks. Yeah, there we go. It's not exact, but it's just for the screen purpose. Anyway, I'm going to come over here to the stamp set for the March 2018 kit here, and I'm going to grab this March Stories, and then I'm just going to pop it on top of my photo and hit enter on my keyboard to place it. For this one, I just want to keep this white to sort of, be the same as the page color, because the page background will be white. So if I click on that layer and I go to edit and then fill, I can tell it that I want the contents to be white. I'm also going to make sure I preserve transparency. And now you can see that the text is in white, and using V on my keyboard, I'm going to hold down the Command key, the Shift key, so that I can keep the same basic size ratio, but I just wanted to make it just a little bit smaller. And then I'm just going to come over here and center it in my page. Yeah, that looks great. So now I've got this great green in my little daffodils that are coming up. It kind of mimics the green over here. And then I've got the green text. So that makes just a nice little repetition in like a visual triangle. So yeah, I think that's going to work great. So let me go ahead and get this printed out, and I will show you how it looks after that.